It's often said that adversity does not create character, it reveals it. Our next story shows us how. It is How Adversity Pointed Me to Workers' Compensation by Eddy Canavan. Eddy is the Chief Claims Advisor for Alta Claims Services. Prior to that, he spent over 17 years at Sedgwick, where he rose to the position of Senior Vice President for Casualty Claims Practice. Eddy holds a bachelor's degree in Business Administration from Cal State San Bernardino, and he has earned his Associate in Claims in Risk Management from the Institutes. With more than 25 years in claims management, Eddy is a frequent speaker, presenter, and panelist for our industry. It is my pleasure to introduce Eddy Canavan.
Are we live?
Thank you, Greg. And thanks, WorkCom Central, for having me here today. It's so funny, I've, as Greg stated, I've probably done 100 of these, but I'm always talking about work comp. Always putting people to sleep with the latest laws and the latest whatever. I'm nervous because today I'm talking about myself. That's just no good. So, I don't want this to sound like a pity party. My life, I've had a lot of struggles, but we've all had struggles, right? We all have things that we have to overcome. I think that we've all had things that have tested our resilience, our character, our judgments. And I do think that life is a series of choices. There's several permutations, commutations. You can go any way you want. In my story, I hope you see some of the choices that I made. And again, what Greg outlined is that it ended up pointing me towards workers' comp. My story's not unique. My story's not novel. I was raised in a middle-class working neighborhood. My neighbors were firefighters, police officers, teachers. I had a good family support system, always had. My parents are still married, 53 years. Great people. When I was 10, thank you. When I was 10, I started not feeling well. I was already a skinny kid, but I started losing weight. I started eating everything in sight. I started drinking everything I could get my hands on, but I just couldn't keep any weight on. So that summer, before my 5th grade year, my mom took me to my pediatrician. He just couldn't figure it out. And he took her out in the hallway and said, "I think he has leukemia. But you need to come back in a week." I mean, how irresponsible was that? So we went on a camping trip, and I was just miserable. So we come back. It's my first day of 5th grade. Go back to the doctor. Guess what? I peed on a strip, and I'm a type 1 juvenile diabetic. So, I have my insulin pump. So you just stop making insulin, right? Type 2s make insulin. Their body stops figuring out what to do with it. Type 1s, you just stop making insulin. So with type 1, it's not just that your sugar goes up. It's also that your sugar can go down. My neighborhood started kind of changing. The firefighters left, the teachers left, the police officers left. We ended up with a lot of drug dealers on my street. And my parents, realizing that they did not make enough money to get out, my dad paid airplanes for an aerospace company, my mom worked in a cafeteria, that we were stuck. So they put me in Kung Fu, so I can learn how to defend myself. And, being a diabetic in Kung Fu, you really got to watch your blood sugars. I mean, if they dip, you could be in trouble. But I ended up just sticking with it. I dealt with the low blood sugars. I dealt with all the other problems. And I became a black belt in Kung Fu. I was a junior black belt, though. So I had a white stripe around my black belt. So they all called me the skunk. Hey, here comes the skunk. But I had a great time learning Kung Fu. It taught me discipline. It taught me resilience. It taught me perseverance. It taught me a lot of things that I've been able to use in my professional and personal life today. But I kind of got out of the martial arts, and I started loving music. With the neighborhood I lived in, I didn't really go outside to do things, so I just became consumed with music. Learned how to play drums, learned how to play the guitar, and joined bands, recorded music, and I'm the guy that opened for the band that opened for No Doubt. So, hey, look who's here speaking before you today. When I was 17, I started thinking about college, and I'm thinking, I probably have decent enough grades to get into like a UC school. But the problem was I had to pay for all of my medical supplies. For my type 1 diabetes, I also had severe GERD, a hiatal hernia. I had a lot of health stuff going on. So I went and tried to get public assistance. I met with a couple social workers and said, hey, I'd love to go to school, but I need help paying for my supplies. And unfortunately, I still lived at home, and my parents just made a little too much money. So they couldn't help. So what did I need to do? At 18, I needed to find a job where I had health insurance. Where do you think I found that job? What industry do you think I found that job in? I became a file clerk for Keenan & Associates in Riverside. At 18 years old, I was pulling files and doing mail, and I loved it. And I looked at the examiners around me, and I really liked what they did. I just genuinely liked it. So I worked very, very hard, and about a year later, I became a claims assistant. About a year later, at 21, I became an examiner. Because all of my clients, when insured, when Quackenbush did open rate, I don't know if anybody here remembers that, but in California, you had to charge a certain amount for premium. Quackenbush came in and just said, open rating, charge whatever you want. So all the self-insured clients that in my office dealt with, they all bought an insurance policy overnight, and none of the examiners in the office wanted to do it. I'm this, ignorant, dumb kid. I'll do it. So I left Keenan, I went to Gates McDonald, and that's where I met my departed mentor, Darryl Brown. He ended up recruiting me, and he brought me to Sedgwick. He just taught me so many things. So I went to Sedgwick in 2001 as a team lead. I'm like 26 years old, and I remember recruiting people and them coming in to interview with me, and they would tell people outside, who's that kid in there? Who am I interviewing with? I didn't go to school until later on in my life. So at 33, when I was managing an office of 50 people dedicated to adjusting claims for AT&T workers' compensation, I went to school at night and I went on the weekends. And I got a call from a guy. He goes, hey, you're getting pretty good grades. I saw you were on the dean's list. Do you want to join my fraternity? And as soon as I could say I'm 33, he just hung up the phone. As soon as he heard out how old I was, he just hung that phone up. I ended up going on to become Sedgwick's national work comp practice leader. I got to meet so many people across the country, so many great colleagues, so many great individuals. And in 2019, I did the very dumb thing of quitting my very good paying job and starting my own company, Alta Claims Services, with my wife, Roxanne, who's right there. So, I don't think my talk is unique. Again, I don't think it's novel. I think we've all done incredible things. We're all here today. But I wanted to have an opportunity, Greg, thank you, for being able to tell my story. And I hope maybe it inspired you, or maybe you have some similarities. Like, Eddie, yeah, me too. Like, I had to go through that. And it made me stronger for it. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Good job.